With the 3-Corps change of command approaching, Fort Hood and Central Texas will bid farewell to the 3-Corps and Fort Hood Commanding General, Lieutenant General Promotable Bob Cohn, and his lovely wife, Jill. Thank you, sir, ma'am, for joining us today. Sir, your time at Fort Hood has been fairly brief, but packed with some significant events and some tragically so. Just looking at your time that you've spent here in Central Texas, what stands out to you the most and why?
Well, I think the relationship between the installation and the community, I think, is remarkable. And you need to look no further than the events of the 5th of November and the subsequent weeks and months that took place after that. That could have been a really destabilizing event for a community. But for a community that is cohesive as ours is, in fact, I think we got through that. I mean, it was not, there's still a lot of pain. There's a lot of tragedy that was involved there. But I think overall, if you look at the next year that came, the accomplishments that Fort Hood achieved, the ability to continue to deploy soldiers, the success we had in a number of programs on the installation, I think is a credit to the resiliency of the Fort Hood soldier, family member, and then the relationship with the community.
Ma'am, what will you take away from your time here in Central Texas?
A lot of good friendships. We came here and knew a few people here, but when he deployed and was gone for the year, there was a lot of people that stepped up and, you know, invited me to dinner, and we went out a lot and did a lot of fun things together, and I made a lot of great friendships that are probably deeper than a typical friendship on an Army post when it's a non-deployable unit. So I think that's the best part about having been here.
Sir, 3-Corps' deployment to Iraq came during a historic time for the country. In your mind, what was the biggest significance in the transition from OIF to OND?
Well, I think it was the capability of the Iraqis. When you really look at where we have to be in order to go home this coming December, you have to realize the tremendous growth in their capability that has to take place that will allow that country to remain stable in the aftermath of the U.S. presence. I think, you know, certainly the other part of that is to do that, to put so much work and to stabilize the country and work with the Iraqis, to have the democratic elections that they had, and at the same time to draw down from over 100,000 to 50,000. I think was really quite a remarkable feat to attempt to do that many things. But you can do those kinds of things when you have an Army whose great strength is its sort of decentralized leadership at lower levels, and I think that was the key to success.
Yes, sir. Ma'am, the new normal for Army families these past 8 years includes a steady stream of deployments. How do you think Army families bear up under the strain, and more particularly, how do you think Fort Hood soldiers' families bear under the strain?
I think they accept what they have to accept, which is this is a part of the life. I don't think it's ever easy, and a lot of civilian friends would say to me, I don't know how you do it, I never could. Well, you can do it when that you have no other choice because that's your spouse's profession. I think there are good days and there are bad days, and I think that's the case for everybody who has a spouse deployed. And I think it's probably harder for the younger spouses that have young children and they're trying to manage so much on their own. And my heart goes out to them, and my admiration goes out to them, because just me on my own, I had some days that were pretty tough, you know, pretty tearful. But that's what those friends are for. So, yeah, that's my thought on it.
Sir, what are your expectations as you consider your new role as the Commanding General for the Army's Training and Doctrine Command?
Well, we never want to leave Fort Hood. I mean, you know, for the record, I was asked what I wanted to do, and I said I'd like to stay at Fort Hood for another year. And then the Chief of Staff of the Army said, "Yeah, right." But there's no job, you know, that I have always thought about is really being in charge of the Army's leader development, education, doctrine development programs. I mean, to me, the future is this young generation of non-commissioned officers, soldiers, and officers. This is a generation that has gotten us through, really, the last 7 years with their innovation, with their creativity, their ability to operate on their own. The key challenge now is to bring them into the Army, or have them change the Army culture so that it is comfortable for them. One thing I'm sure of, I mean, we can look into the, part of my job is looking into a crystal ball and seeing the future and having predicting which enemy we'll have, predicting where the conflict will take place, what equipment we need, and then of course what the leader's skills will be. I can guarantee you we'll have the wrong enemy in the wrong place and not have the right equipment. But that'll all be okay if we have leaders who are as adaptive and as flexible as they have been the last 7 years. We haven't invested a lot in leader development programs for the last 10 years. We've been focused on the fight and sort of mortgaging the future. What we've got to do is pay back now on leader development programs for our younger generation.
Sir. Mrs. Cohn, as you prepare to leave the Fort Hood community, what do you think you'll miss most about Central Texas?
The weather, except for in the summer. And of course the people, the community, not just the military families in the community, but the people in the community itself. A lot of retirees and a lot of people that had no affiliation with the Army whatsoever, but are great supporters of the Army, have done so much in helping support me. But they also do that throughout the entire community, and it's such a friendly area that it's hard to imagine any other place that'll be this much fun or this friendly.
And sir, finally, what message would you like to leave with the soldiers, their families, and the surrounding communities of Central Texas?
Well, I think what I always tell soldiers is always remember that they are the best of our country. There are so few people in our country today that willingly step forward and say, raise their right hand and offer to do something for their nation. Not only do they do that, but they're doing it in a time of war. The probability of you joining the Army and going to combat in Iraq or Afghanistan or any of the other worldwide deployment sites is extremely high. So recognize that. Recognize your contribution to your nation, your good, and again, it's really about you. And the Army is about soldiers. And so you're part of the team. We appreciate your contribution and all that you do for us.
Sir, ma'am, thank you very much for joining us today. We wish you the best of luck in the future. I've been speaking with 3 Corps and Fort Hood Commanding General, Lieutenant General Promotable Bob Cohn, and his wife Jill. For 3 Corps Public Affairs, I'm Sergeant First Class Frank Minnie.